Hello, and welcome to my channel, The Entrepreneurial Mindset. My name is Jay Berman, and today is Module 6 of my course, Influential Intelligence. And today I'm going to talk about how to manage conflict at work. So what exactly is conflict? It's basically a psychological barrier between two colleagues that prevents cooperation. It can be defined also as a power struggle that creates adversaries at work, which is not a good idea. Why are adversaries a bad idea at work? Because adversaries make poor teammates. It's difficult to get things done. When you have an adversarial relationship with your colleagues, your boss, anybody you work with. And it's difficult to be influential with enemies, with adversaries at work. So what do people bring into a conflict? What causes conflict? Well, it could be your strengths or your talents are different. Everybody has different strengths. Everyone has different talents. And those talents and strengths lead to different perceptions. What you think or the other person thinks are the issues, the problems that need to be resolved. Certainly attitudes and beliefs based on your own work experience, your own ideas of the future, and just work habits. So how do we usually resolve conflict? It's usually this win or lose model is most common. In other words, someone is the winner and someone is the loser. In other words, we're taught to crush or defeat our opponents when it comes to issues that we're passionate about, that we want to bring forth in the workplace. We demand compliance via punishment. Now, there's also another way you can avoid conflict by flight. So it's the fight or flight model to avoid compliance or to avoid losing. And of course, there's always my way or the highway attitude, where that leads to risking all influence with colleagues if you want to impose your will on everybody else and cause rebellion at work or among your colleagues or your employees. So the best way to resolve conflict at work is what I call the CALM model. C standing for clarifying the issue or the problem. A, addressing the problem with different resolutions and discussing those resolutions. L, listening to both sides of the issue, both sides of the problem. And then M, managing the process to achieve an amicable win-win resolution for both parties. So let's start off with clarifying the issue. The important thing is to analyze the issues and problems with facts, evidence. In other words, you focus on the facts of the problem or the issue and not emotions. Why isn't it, in other words, explain why an issue is important or why is it relevant, and why should an issue or a problem become a priority to be fixed. Next is the A, address the problem. It's a good idea to meet personally with the other party. I know we have the ability to meet through Zoom or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams, and that's okay, particularly if the parties are short on time and the people involved, your colleagues, are spread all over the world or all over the country. But if you can meet in person, that's probably a good way to influence um, your colleagues to be able to meet with them in person, in a meeting room, in a conference room. If not, certainly, again, like I mentioned earlier, Google Meet, Zoom, and Microsoft Teams are very good alternatives. Uh, don't use email or your cell phone to resolve conflicts. That can also lead to misinterpretations. It's also important to speak without emotion about what you've observed or experienced. Again, if you're angry or you're upset, it's good to keep those emotions in check. Because eventually, there's the whatever problem or issue you're confronting with another colleague, bringing anger and to a meeting is probably not a good idea. Anger doesn't really help influence another person. And the important thing is you have to present evidence to support that you offer a better resolution, and that your evidence is not based on hearsay or gossip or rumors. It's also important to listen to both sides. I mean, try not to prejudge the situation, the problem, or the issue. Commit to active listening, and that means asking, clarifying questions. It shows that you are interested in what the other person has to say, and you're not just giving them lip service because they just happen to be there. Restate, summarize, and again, clarify what the issues are, what's the problem. Use positive body language. Show that you're concerned about what your colleague or your employee is presenting to you. They shouldn't have to, fear what you're gonna say or do just because you're presenting an issue, because your employee, your colleague, is presenting an issue or a problem that they think is important. And pay also attention to, nonverbal cues that the person is presenting when you're talking with them. Again, just have a positive attitude when talking to somebody else. And then M means manage to resolution. That means you commit yourself to finding a win-win resolution, particularly if you are the boss or the owner of the company or the business, where you can easily make a decision. But making a decision and the other person, feels like you haven't been listening, that you haven't been paying attention to what they're saying, is not very helpful and doesn't allow you to be more influential in the future. Give yourself and the other party time to discuss the issues, the problem, to come up with a mutual beneficial resolution. And it's important to always keep in the back of your mind to keep the relationship professional and intact, so you can be influential in future conflicts. And last but not least, there should be some ground rules when it comes to, resolving conflicts, resolving problems, issues. All issues should be open for discussion. People shouldn't fear if they say something, or they want to present an issue, a problem, a concern, that that their job is at risk, or their raise is at risk, or promotions at risk. There shouldn't be any secrets, which really just discourages trust. It's very important, if you're going to be influential, that your employees, your colleagues, trust you. Diffuse your emotions before a meeting. In other words, if you're angry, if you're upset, you're furious, be calm, because anger is not going to solve any particular resolution. It's not going to present any a solution to a problem. Also, commit to staying in the conversation. Continue talking, continue presenting facts, analyzing the pros and cons of every resolution, until there is a a viable, practical solution to the particular problem that you're presenting or your employee or colleague is presenting. Remember, no threats of walkaways in order to get your way, and no power plays or threats of punishment. So in other words, when it comes to conflict, it's important that managers, bosses, allow their employees and colleagues, to speak their mind in a professional manner, of course. And that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching. Any questions or comments, please use the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel for more content in business education and entrepreneurship. And again, thank you for watching.